Good morning, YouTube. This is Sage Wanderer coming at you from my van down by the river. So today I'd like to talk about race war. We are definitely involved in a time when racial tension is higher than it's been since the 1960s. Believe it or not, it was definitely worse then. But now it seems to have taken on a certain hysteria where people that are not racist are being labeled as racist. I will be called a racist for simply talking about the race war. I'm not going to go into my apologetics and tell you why I'm not a racist. I will say this, more than once I've been the only white guy in an all-black band, and I've dated across racial lines, so it's really hard to call me a racist. So, what's going on with this race war right now? Well, first of all, it's way worse than you probably think it is. And that's because the mainstream media is covering it up. There have been ridiculous numbers of violent crimes against white people simply because they're white. If this shoe were on the other foot and there was this number of white violence against blacks just because they're black, it would be all over the place. You would be, completely aware of it. But you are not aware that for some time now, black radicals have been hunting white people. If you don't believe this is true, then you should check out online a man named Colin Flaherty. That's Flaherty. Colin with one L, Flaherty. At first, you might think this guy's a racist because he straight up tells it like it is. But look at what he has to say. Look at his video evidence of mobs of black people beating and in some cases killing white people just because they're white. There's been several incidences of groups of African Americans somewhere in the area between 20 and as many as 500 people that have just gone on rampages in major and minor American cities, looting, beating up people, basically tearing up things, running through the streets. Not really even part of an organization or a rally, just these kind of random gangs going around committing crimes against white people just because they're white. This man, Colin Flaherty, he will absolutely open your eyes to this stuff if you can get past the distasteful nature of it. No one likes to talk about the crimes that black people are committing against whites. And some people will call me a racist just because I brought it up. But I feel like I need to talk about it. Now, Black Lives Matter and Antifa have been hand in hand until just recently they had a falling out. And here's why. Antifa hates anyone who is not a communist, who is not an anarchist, and who is not on their side. That includes black people. If you're a black Republican, if you're a black conservative, if you're a black libertarian, if you're a black centrist, then Antifa hates you. Black Lives Matter, at their core leadership, hate anybody that's white, and they only hold their nose and tolerate Antifa because they've been on the same side. But there's been enough confrontations between Antifa and Black Lives Matter that they've now disavowed each other. I would urge you to just type in, if you have the guts, into your search engine, into your YouTube search, and just type in the words race war. And what you will discover, obviously, there's a few of the crazy white people. And there's some of them not so crazy because they become aware, like I have, of what's going on. But some of them are just straight up old KKK. They've been around for a long time. They obviously show how ridiculously stupid they are. But what you'll also discover is a whole lot more black YouTubers and black bloggers who are openly calling for a race war. They hate white people. They hate all white people. They hate the white establishment of our country, but in particular, they hate anybody who isn't African American. Furthermore, they hate African Americans who don't side with them as well. Although I don't see them calling for violence against their own race, but rather calling them to wake up and smell the coffee, as it were. So there's lots of evidence that we've been involved in a race war for some time, and it is absolutely not being talked about by mainstream media. White people are scared to death to talk about it. Honestly, if I lived in a place where I was less of the majority and more of a equal or minority race in an area, I might be predisposed to not talk about it. But I'm kind of hard to scare. I got a lot of skills, and I'm a guy that's very aware, and it's kind of hard to sneak up on me. So I'm not afraid to talk about it. Some of the videos are very disturbing. These people are very, very angry and very, very hate-filled. And quite honestly, some of the things that they say in their videos, if any white person said it, I can't see him not being arrested. I can't see him not being accosted by the press and everyone else. But because it's an African American saying these things, they look the other way. And let's not play down what happened to the African Americans in the past. I grew up in another time. I'll tell you a quick story, not to beleaguer it too much, and maybe I'll do a special video just about this story. But when I was a little kid, I came upon a black boy who was being attacked and beaten and ridiculed and degraded by a group of 4 white boys. And it just set off my righteous indignation. I couldn't believe they were doing this to him simply because of the color of his skin. I was whopping 8 years old when this happened to me. And the boy's name was Willie. And I waded in with Willie, and me and Willie put our backs together, and we whipped them 4 boys, even though they were much older than us, 3 or 4 years older than us. We sent them back running, bloodied and beaten. And me and Willie became friends for a long time until I moved away. Even though our cultures wouldn't allow us to be friends, we snuck around and were friends anyway. And I can remember as early as 7 or 8 years old being called an N-word lover. I hate that word, I won't say it, but you know what I mean. That's what they called people like me back then. So the things that went on in segregated society were awful. But I feel like my generation put a stop to it. Just like me going shoulder to shoulder with Willie, I feel like many people from my generation stood up against racism. We told the older generation to shut up, that we didn't want to hear it, that we weren't going to judge people by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And I don't know how the wheels came off, but definitely the wheels have come off. And there's a whole generation now of African Americans who see it as their duty, honestly, to punish white people for the past. My generation didn't do this to you. The younger generation hasn't done this to you. In fact, most of the yous we're talking about weren't even alive when all these atrocities happened. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I struggle to make sense out of it, but I really don't think that you can make sense out of it. It's emotional, and it's ingrained in them, and it's spreading like a virus through the African American community. I could see why they might have problems with police, but let's just look at the statistics here. So if white people are racist and violent against blacks, why is it that a white person is 4 times, in some studies, and these are crime statistics, so they're the real deal, as many as 5 times more likely to suffer violence at the hands of a black man than a black man is to suffer violence at the hands of a white man? In fact, the numbers are very similar. A black man is 5 times more likely to suffer, to be killed or beaten or assaulted by another black man than they are by a white man. So in this situation, looking at the crime statistics, it's very clear that there's something very bad going on, that white people are being targeted. I'm sure this video will make some people hate me, but if I get hated for telling the truth, then so be it. That's my job in the world, I think, to be a truth teller. For a while I was a preacher, and for many years a musician, and in both those jobs I told the truth. And I'm telling you the truth now. There is a race war coming. I don't know how big the movement is, but go on and check it out. It's eye-opening. Just Google race war and listen to what they have to say. They call us pink pigs. They call us subhuman. they have similar hateful names for black people who don't believe like they do. And it's quite disturbing. It's quite frightening. If you live in an area with a large African American population, it'll probably scare the pants right off you. So wake up out of the darkness, wake up out of the blindness, wake up out of the spell you've been put under by mainstream media, and research this topic. It'll scare the crap out of you. Till next time.